That's what she needs. These more human moments. There is not enough of them in this issue. Again, it's much better than the first issue. Reviewing actually improved a lot from the first issue, and she can continue to do better. But there's a humanity that is lacking in the work so far, and that really turns me off to the work in general. But there's little hints of it here, like Riri getting frustrated because the dean won't respect her space. We need more of that. So then afterward, Riri gets an alert that someone in Chicago has gone missing, and guess who it is? It's Deja from the earlier flashback. So then the next important scene is that Riri is shown. She's on I wouldn't call it a date. She's hanging out with Xavier, and he's watching this movie. He wants her to watch it with him. He says this really cool scene coming up where the hero of the movie, Iron Warrior, is going to cut off the monster's head, and then he makes a sound effect. He says "blow." I'm like, that's not the sound effect for an explosion. I'm sorry, I take that back. That's the sound effect for an explosion. It's not the sound effect for a slicing, right? He says that the Iron Warrior is going to cut the bad guy's head off. A blow is not the sound effect for a slicing. A slicing would be more like a shot, right? That type of thing. This sharp shot, right? This idea of a slicing. A blow is not that. Blow is explosion, boom, kaboom, right? That's a blow. That's a blow. Blow does not slice. I know it might seem like I'm being nitpicky, and maybe I am, but again, I'm a woman of details, and this is the stuff that I notice, and this is the stuff that makes it difficult for me, not necessarily to enjoy it, but to get emotionally invested in the character, because I'm not emotionally invested in Riri as of yet. And I think it's a mix of I'm just generally not interested, and e-viewing as of yet has not created an interesting character. That's the best way I can put it. But I don't feel an emotional investment or connection to her. And I can feel an emotional investment and connection to characters that I don't like or that I don't have an interest in. For example, I was reading, X-Men issue 170. And that issue opens up with Scott Summers and Madeline Pryor, and there's this whole thing. Scott isn't sure if he can trust her, and he's falling in love with her fast, but he isn't sure what to do because she looks so much like Jean Grey. And here's the thing, Claremont's writing in that issue is so good that while I'm reading that, I totally forget that I'm supposed to dislike Scott. I totally just... It's out of my mind. So long as I'm reading that dialogue, all I can do is just feel for Scott and feel for the situation he's in. Maybe it's unfair to compare Eve to Chris Claremont. I fully admit that. But at the same time, that's the standard, at least in my mind, she has to at least try to meet. That's the sort of feeling she has to invoke in me. Make Riri so relatable that even I, someone who is largely indifferent toward the character, feel for her in these moments. Because again, I feel like I'm watching a movie that I'm not terrible, or rather reading the script of a movie that I'm not terribly interested in. I understand that, there's this scene where Riri has a flashback, but I don't have any emotional investment. I understand that Riri's friend goes missing. I don't have any emotional investment. Eve Ewing's writing with this character just hasn't touched me that deeply yet. That's the best I can say. So going back to the story itself, Riri is at Xavier's place, and she's looking up information on her missing friend Deja. She says that she can't find anything online really about the disappearance. It seems like nobody's looking for her. What's his face? Xavier says that he met Deja once at a cousin's birthday party. She seemed nice. Then this lady, who I cannot tell if it's his mother or his sister, because it isn't made clear. I'm going to assume it's his mother because at the end of issue 1, he stated to Riri that his mother made him call her because she didn't have any friends. So I'm going to assume it's the mom. But honestly, there's nothing in this issue that makes it clear who this woman is. She could be his sister. She could be his mother. I don't know. But I'm going to assume it's his mom. She comes in and says that she was just speaking to Deja's mother, and Deja's mom said that she was doing well. Then they see a political ad, and then what's his face? Xavier starts talking about how they heard about the politician in civics class and all this other stuff, and then conveniently enough, the mom, I think who is the mom, says that Deja was working for this politician guy. And then Riri says that, that's the clue she's been looking for. And that she couldn't find it online and she just should have asked Xavier's mom instead. Now, I'm going to pause here for a moment because there's something I want to address about this whole scene. Now, I could be reading too much into it. I fully admit that. But given that Riri starts out this scene at Xavier's place saying that there's no news reports, there's very little online, on the internet of all things, about this woman's disappearance. And then later she makes a comment where she talks about how the news wasn't covering it or the internet wasn't covering it, but now she has the clue she needs. I think this may be social commentary on E-Viewing's part about apparently how the media or the internet doesn't care about black people disappearing. However, I want to be clear, if that's the case, if that's the narrative she's going with, it makes no sense because in this same scene, it's revealed that Deja has been working for a politician. If the aide of a politician, regardless of their race, if the aide of a politician goes missing, the news is going to be all over that. Remember the Sandra Levy case? The news was all over that because Sandra Levy, who was murdered sadly, right, was in a relationship with and worked for a politician. That's why she became such a media sensation after her death. The media is not going to just let the disappearance of a woman who is working for a politician just slide. So if this scene is supposed to be social commentary, I gotta call BS on that. I'm not just calling shenanigans, I'm calling BS because that's not true. The news would care. The media would make this woman a celebrity because of the political connection to it. So anyway, Riri goes into the city the next day. She chases a few kids who are kind of like playing hot potato with this phone. She's able to catch up with one of the kids. She sees that it's just a little boy. She tries to get him to speak to her. He runs off. And then these cyber ninja looking things attack her. And they somehow are able to best her. And then the Natalie AI suggests that she don't think about the armor. Think about what Riri would do. So she plays possum. When they get close enough, she repulsor blast them. Then they look like they set themselves on fire, which they really didn't. The Natalie AI clarifies that they aren't dead; they just disappeared. I actually would have found it interesting had they actually set themselves on fire, because they claim to be some part of the wellspring of power or whatnot, and they're very cryptic. But outside of just a random fight, they really don't do anything. I think it would have been interesting if the setting yourself on fire had been similar to like when someone loses or they don't want to talk and they take like a cyanide pill, right? It shows a certain devotion to the cause that you would give your life, right, even on pain of death or loss. But I guess because this is supposed to be maybe not lighthearted, but a book for younger audiences, they don't want them to think that, oh, these people literally, set themselves on fire because they were bested by a Riri. So then, next big scene after that is that these little kids are shown trying to plead their case to some shadowy figure who pretty much pulls a "you have failed me" on them, and then Deja is shown on the floor, unconscious. And that's about it. Again, it's not a bad story. It's much better than I thought it was going to be. It's much better than the first one. Much better than anything Bendis ever did with Riri when he wrote her. But again, it's average. It's average. And I'm not particularly emotionally invested in this. And Riri, at least to me, has yet to become a terribly interesting character. I'll admit, the art's good. Again, that one panel where everything is tilted aside. The art is very good. The colors are good. But there's just no heart. That's the best way I can put it. There's no heart to this story. Again, I didn't feel like I was reading a story about a superhero's life. I felt like I was reading a movie script or a TV script. A lot of the dialogue, like I said in the beginning, the boys using shorty. No one says that anymore. A lot of the dialogue either just feels dated or again just feels like a movie. I mean, you have a criminal holding the gun sideways like he's in a John Woo film. It just, again, there's just this lack of authenticity and humanity that E-Viewing hasn't been able to overcome yet. Maybe in time, as she learns how to become a better comic writer, she will. I hope she will. I hope she does. But this particular issue, it's not enough for me to keep following this character. Let me explain to you how uninterested in Riri I am. In the gag panel where Riri's sitting on the bus, there's a little boy, I think it's a boy, holding a rabbit. I was more interested in this rabbit. I was more interested in how this little boy got a free-range rabbit on the bus than I was about Riri. To the point that when I finished reading the issue the first time, I actually Googled Massachusetts pet laws to find out if they allow you to have rabbits as pets, because here in New York, in New York State, you cannot have a bunny rabbit as a pet. Sadly, it was a law that was changed a few years ago. So apparently in Massachusetts you can have a bunny as a pet, except for a San Juan rabbit. I have no idea what a San Juan rabbit is outside of being a rabbit from San Juan. So that's my review of this comic. It's better than its predecessor, but it's not really there for me. It's not. I think it's a buy if you accept it for what it is. It's an improvement. The first, what is it? What's that old saying? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. That's true, but E-Viewing has many steps to go. But I hope she does well. But I don't think this will be an issue or a book that I'll be following. Every time I see Riri, I just think DC did this better with Maxine Gibson. That's honestly what comes to me. So I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope that I was able to make myself clear, because it's very difficult to explain what I'm trying to talk about for a review without being able to show the comic. I suggest, if you want, to look up the comic yourself and then compare what I say to the image, and I think that will give a better explanation. But that's it. I hope you enjoy your Sunday. If you have off for MLK Day tomorrow, I hope you enjoy that too. Have a good night, or rather a good day, I should say. Bye.